Okay, so let's get started. We are in week 4 already. All right. So, first of all, regarding week 3, anyone have any questions regarding week 3? You can either put it in the chat or you can raise your hand, unmute yourself. All right, so this week we're week 4, so we're going to go over planning and decision making. And then at the end, I'll go over your check-ins, discussions, and assignments. I'm going to have you to do today, instead of doing a Google Doc thing, I'm going to actually have you do a couple practice writings, because practice makes perfect, especially with writing. You just get better as you do it. All right, so planning and decision making. So the learning outcomes for this week: consider contextual forces that may affect whether, how, to whom, and when a message is sent. Identify the purpose of the message and the appropriate channel and medium. Develop clear perceptions of the audience to enhance the impact and persuasiveness of the message. Improve goodwill and establish and maintain credibility of the communicator. Apply tactics for adapting messages to the audience, including those for communicating ethically and responsibly. And to recognize the importance of an organization when planning the first draft. It's okay to have more than one draft when you're doing something really short like an email. It's totally okay. That's why you can save it and send it later. So here's kind of like a planning checklist for business messages. Determine your general purpose. So is it to inform, persuade, entertain, facilitate, interaction, or motivate a reader? Determine your desired outcome. Make sure your purpose is realistic. Make sure your timing is appropriate. Make sure your sources are credible. And make sure the message reflects positively on your business. Also, you want to determine your audience size, the composition, your audience knowledge and awareness of the topic, anticipate probable responses, select the correct channel, because there's so many different channels that you can send a business message, especially these days with all the social media channels. And make sure the information provided is accurate, ethical, and pertinent. All right, so processes for planning and preparing messages. So step 1 is considering your context. So this is dimensions of your context: physical, social, chronological, cultural. And this is like with any type of writing. So this kind of might sound familiar to you, those who have taken some writing English classes. Organizational culture: shared assumptions that a group learns as it solves external adaptation and internal integration problems. So taught to new members is a correct way to perceive, think, and feel. This affects the type, amount, and quality of communication within an organization. So sometimes you might need more than one type of communication, maybe more than one email sent out. Step 2, determining the purpose and select an appropriate channel and medium. So what's the purpose of the business message? Is it to enable the receiver to understand certain type of information? Is it to establish a good relationship with someone, whether it be your customer or a coworker? To establish and maintain credibility as a professional in order to increase persuasiveness. So this last one here is more for like a sales representative or someone selling a product. Determine the purpose and select an appropriate channel medium. So keep going here. Channel choice considerations: cost, control, need for a permanent record, richness versus leanness, amount of information conveyed, speed, time required for feedback. And we kind of went over time required for feedback last week. So what are the different channels of communication these days? There's so many out there. There's written, oral, nonverbal, and visual. So written, some of the examples here: memos. No one really sends memos anymore. Letters, emails, text messaging or instant messaging. Some customers, business people talk through LinkedIn Messenger or even Facebook Messenger. No one, you can tell this is an old graphic, like who really sends faxes anymore? I don't even know anyone who owns a fax, the only people who ask for faxes are like government agencies. And then you're like, great, you accept a fax, but I don't even own a fax machine. Who does? Got to go down to Kinko's and pay like $2 a page to fax something. So ignore that one. Press releases, company websites, blogs, and reports. Oral could be face-to-face or interpersonal. Telephone, yes, people still call each other on the phone. I know it's not as often, but we do still call each other, right? Voice messages, video conferences, maybe Zoom meetings, speeches, podcasts. Nonverbal supplements oral forms, and visual supplements written and oral communication in the form of diagrams, photos, maybe videos, artwork, tables, charts. So I kind of created this chart here, which is kind of the main channels these days. Text messaging. So believe it or not, you'll get text messages from business people now. I get them all the time from my clients. I do not get them from students because I do not give out my cell phone number to students, but I get them from clients all the time. I get them from people in my network, my business network, like, hey, do you offer this service? I can refer you to someone. However, with my clients, there are some clients out there that don't know the timing, right? So we just kind of mentioned that in the previous slide. They don't understand the timing of when to send a text message. So I make sure when I first meet with a new client, I put a disclaimer about communication at the bottom of the contract with my clients and say that I'm available for text messaging for, emergencies only, because social media, there's going to be emergencies, and between these hours, because I have had times where I've had clients text me at 9 or 10 o'clock at night on a Friday, and knowing me, the runner, right? Like, I wake up really early in the morning. I go to bed at like 8. The last thing I want is a text at 9 or 10. And I had a situation, I know this is turning into a long story. I had a situation where I was out of town and I had a race Saturday morning. So I really went to bed early. I'm concentrating on my race, getting a good night's sleep. And sure enough, my watch starts going off because my text messages from my phone are connected to my watch. Some of you might have that as well. And I'm getting texts from a client, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This client is texting me at 9 or 10 o'clock at night on a Friday night, telling me of some crazy ideas he has for his social media campaigns coming up. So Monday morning, I had to send him a professional email saying that that was not okay, and moving forward, he needs to text me during regular business hours, and if he has a brilliant idea at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, not a problem at all, but please email me. And that would be the better channel of communication during that time and day. So that's my example, long story. So text messaging, IM, email. The great thing with email, you can send emails any time of the day because people can check them when they want. It's not going to their phone or to their watch on their wrist and doing the little vibrate and waking people up. Letters, you need to inform, persuade, deliver bad news or negative messages, and you need to document the communication. So for example, maybe you need to lay off or fire an employee. You would want that in a letter. It's bad news, you're informing, and you need a document of the communication. I like to call it a paper trail. Reports, you need to document the relationships between large amounts of data to inform an internal or external audience. So reports are multiple pages, they come with a lot of content, written, maybe photos, links, appendices, which are kind of like links to additional information, Excel sheets, all sort of charts, drawings. So reports are huge documents. And proposals is when you need to persuade an audience with complex arguments and data. So proposals, think sales. You're selling someone something. You want them to make a purchase, a proposal. So these are pretty much the main ones here. But if you want to know all the different types are in this one. I would say most of my 90% of my business communication is all through email. I'll do some text messaging and then I do phone calls, but it's pretty much all email. Okay, so like I said earlier, practice makes perfect. I want you to just take some time. I'm going to give you about 10-15 minutes. Here's the scenario, and we're going to do a little practice exercise here. So the scenario is you are a sales rep for one of the following companies, and you can choose whatever one here. I just chose some different type of companies. Hydro Flask is a bigger company. Aloha Printing is just your local neighborhood printer. It's a real company though, small business. Palmer Animal Hospital, Lululemon, GoPro, Life Source Chiropractic. So a little variety here of small business, local businesses, and then big brands. So you're the sales rep for one of the companies you choose. Write an email. It can be short, just a couple paragraphs. Write an email to a new customer introducing a new product or service. So depending on which company you choose, it could be a product or a service. Your customers could be business to consumer, which is B2C, or it could be business to business, B2B, depending on which one you choose. So an example is if you chose GoPro, maybe your client would be Amazon, Dick's Sporting Goods, or Surfride, as an example. So go ahead, I'll give you guys about 10-15 minutes, write a short little email, and then I'll put you guys out into breakout rooms and you can discuss with people in your group instead of the whole class. We'll just get through it a little quicker there. All right, so moving on here. So now we're in step 3, envisioning the audience. What do you know about your audience? What are their needs and concerns? Sensitivity and awareness to cultural and diversity issues is a must. And be aware of age, economic level, education, occupational background. Know that establishing rapport is part of the business, especially if you're like a sales rep or even a partner. If you're emailing someone who's a partner or a vendor of yours, you want to make sure you're having a good relationship with them. Be consistently positive, supportive, and respectful always. Co-workers, boss, vendors, partners, prospects, clients, anyone. Adapt the message to audience needs and concerns, so communicate ethically, responsibly, write concisely, and project a positive tone. Focus on the audience's point of view. Use you language versus I language. Build and protect goodwill. Focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. And that's really important in customer service as well. You can never say, you try not to ever say, I can't do that. No. You don't want to be a no person. You want to be a yes person. You want to be a problem solver. You want to figure out a way to solve their problem or their needs and concerns. If you don't have the answer, maybe you say you'll get back to them and you'll discuss it with your team, and someone else might have the answer. Organizing the message, outlining. Sometimes it's a long email and you want to make sure it's organized so that you're not jumping around all over the place and confusing your reader. Encourages accuracy, permits concentration, and saves time in structuring ideas. Sometimes it's good to use bullet points or numbers. If you have, hey, I have a few questions regarding your last email. 1, 2, 3. They're spelled out. Different types of writing styles. So you guys have kind of already learned this in your English and writing classes already, but just to kind of go over this a little bit more. There's formal versus informal. So formal, please note the attached delivery data for July 2019. Informal, here's the delivery data for last month. So depending on how your audience is, you either go formal or informal. Emphasis, there's 3 different types of emphasis. Maximum emphasis. Sales have increased across the United States because of our latest promotion efforts in our largest and most successful market. So boom, maximum emphasis. Medium. Because of our latest promotion efforts in our largest and most successful market, sales have increased across the United States. So it's a little toned down. And then minimum. The United States, which has experienced a sales increase, is our largest and most successful market. So really toned down. So 3 different levels there. Direct versus indirect. So direct states the main purpose directly at the beginning and leaves little room for misinterpretation. Clear from the first sentence about your purpose and goal. Use when you expect a positive response. So maybe when you're talking to your subordinates, or you might get an email like this from your boss. Informal. Introduce your main idea after the opening paragraph. Indirect. I'll edit this slide. Indirect. Introduce your main idea after the opening paragraph. This can be useful if you need a strong opening to get the attention of what you perceive may be an uninterested audience. Use when you expect a negative response, and better for bad news. Maybe it's telling your staff that they aren't getting that extra vacation day that you thought they were going to get. Hopefully that never happens to anyone. Active versus passive voice. This one's a little tricky, so hopefully this example helps you with this. Luckily, most of everything you're going to write is going to be in an active voice. That's mostly what business people do, but just so you know the difference here. So active, a sentence structure in which the subject carries out the action. So all sales orders are processed daily by Mackenzie. Sentences tend to be shorter, more precise, and easier to understand. So that's why it's more popular, and that's pretty much what people use. And then there's passive, which is a sentence structure in which the subject receives the action. So Mackenzie processes all sales orders daily. Those are the difference there. And these are some good slides to go back to and review as you start writing your writing assignments. So here's something I wanted to share with you guys. I don't know if any of you have this problem, but there's a whole list of the commonly confused words here. Here's just the top ones I felt that I see as a teacher. Accept versus accept. Effect versus effect. It's versus its. Than versus then. This is my problem. I always mess this one up. I always have to concentrate when I write that one. Your versus your. So I'm sure you guys have all have one or two of these that you always kind of have to think. Or maybe you see someone post on social media and they're using the wrong one and it just drives you nuts. Anyone? No? Just me, teacher person? Some of you? Or you might be typing something super fast on social media and someone corrects you and you're like, geez, I know what I'm talking about. It was just a typo. Or an autocorrect.
My problem is that I make all of these mistakes.
All of them. Yeah, there was a whole list I found, but these were like just the top ones. I'm like, those are the ones I see the most as a teacher. So, good little chart to have, a little cheat sheet while you guys are writing your assignments. So, some final tips for you guys. Everything you access via an employer's system is subject to inspection. So, be careful of what emails you send out. Always be careful, and it can always be forwarded to someone else. So if you want to have a private conversation with someone, do it in person, face to face, like talking to someone, not over email. If you're worried about it getting into the wrong hands, businesses have access to everything. Instant messengers. I can't tell you how many employees I've worked with in the past where they say the craziest things in IM chats. Maybe some of you guys work for companies that use Slack. That's a big one. All that's recorded, so really be careful of what you say. In a way, it's kind of good it's recorded, the chats, because if you forget something that maybe your boss or coworker told you, you can scroll back and find it, so you kind of have like a little paper trail. But at the same time, be careful of what you say. Everything you write or record reflects you and your business or organization, even if it's stored in a Google or Yahoo account, and even if it's supposedly private. Businesses can find a way to find things. Just like when you post on social media and you're interviewing for a job and they're not supposed to technically look up your Facebook account as an example, but they all do. All the HR people do. That's the first thing to do is Google you. Keep that in mind too. Respect personal space by not forwarding every email you think is funny. And I always try to keep every email professional. If you have a coworker who keeps sending you dumb stuff that has nothing to do with work, don't ever respond back to it because it could get you in trouble later. Use a concise but relevant and informative phrase for the subject lines. So like I said before, keep your subject lines organized and make sure if you're start talking about something else, create a different thread because then you can always search later for those subject lines. Email the receiver before sending large attachments as they may exceed the limit of the receiver's inbox. I always do this, or if I send images, I'll send a separate email following up. Hey, I just wanted to make sure that you received my previous email. The file I sent you was 12 megabytes. Let me know if you didn't receive it, and then we can use a Dropbox or a web box, whatever. And attach your intended attachments. We've all been there where we've forgotten to attach our attachments. I know a lot of the email platforms nowadays, if they think you're supposed to attach something, it might pop up an error before it actually sends the email out, and it'll say, did you mean to attach an attachment? And you're like, oh shoot, you're right. Because I'm doing 10 different things at once when I'm on the computer. Yeah. So try to always remember, attach your attachments. Okay, next little activity I'm going to have you guys do. This one's a little shorter. So select at least 3 examples of writing from different kinds of sources, such as websites, maybe an online textbook, email, blog, report, anything you can find on Google, case study. And according to the style characteristics that we just kind of talked about, how would you characterize the style of each one? So looking back in the slides here, formal versus informal, what kind of emphasis did it have? Direct versus indirect, active versus passive. These slides are on Canvas right now if you want to download them, if that makes it easier, so that, because I can only share one screen at a time. And just kind of go through, do a little Google searching. I'll give you guys like 10 minutes and try to distinguish what characteristics you found in each one. Does that make sense?